Hello and welcome back to my humble show. This will be a short one, hopefully, although I can't say that with certainty. This is a bit of an update on something I already talked about more extensively just the other day, but I have a few more things to say. I'd be happy to hear whatever you have to say as well, so let me know in the comments below what you think, what you know. Feel free to disagree with me, as always. More debating equals less hating, ideally. And with that in mind, let's talk about Charlie Kirk and the back and forth he had with Van Jones of CNN the day before Charlie Kirk was assassinated. I saw this video on CNN's YouTube channel just the other day. Van Jones shows the message Charlie Kirk sent him one day before he was killed. I thought it was worth reacting to here. I've already seen it, but I was in a hurry, so I can't remember everything about it, but there were some things that I wanted to say in response to it, so here we go. But for additional context on how this back and forth between them started, the killing of Irina Zarutska, the Ukrainian refugee who was murdered on a train in North Carolina. The killing of Irina Zarutska occurred on August 22, 2025, at the East-West Boulevard station on the Lynx Blue Line in Charlotte, North Carolina, United States, obviously. Irina Zarutska, a Ukrainian refugee who had fled her country because of the Russian invasion, was fatally stabbed. The suspected assailant, D. Carlos Brown Jr., was arrested upon exiting the train and charged with first-degree murder. The killing drew international coverage for Zarutska's status as a refugee seeking safety in the United States, prompted a public statement from Charlotte Mayor V. Lyles, and footage of the killing sparked outrage on social media, leading to policy discussions about transit security, fair enforcement, and gaps in the criminal justice and mental health systems. It wasn't just about that. It was about the fact that he was a black man who had stabbed to death a white woman, not just any white woman, but, again, a Ukrainian refugee. So yes, immediately after stabbing Irina Zarutska to death, D. Carlos Brown was heard on video saying, "I got that white girl. I got that white girl," which prompted certain individuals within conservative media to talk about certain racial aspects of the obvious murder. Although this Wikipedia entry says the killing drew international coverage, mainstream media did not want to touch this story at the time. They didn't seem like they cared at all. And people like me wondered why. People like Charlie Kirk wondered why. In fact, we know why. And Charlie Kirk pointed out why, only to have CNN finally cover the story just long enough to smear Charlie Kirk for mentioning race. So that's some of the context. I already reacted to the original segment on CNN, which I called pathetic. The segment in which they smeared Charlie Kirk essentially suggested that he was a racist. Van Jones, among them, said things like, "We don't know what the motive of this killer was. Hurt people hurt people." And then he said that the only person talking about race was Charlie Kirk, which wasn't true, since there was a video of D. Carlos Brown saying, "I got that white girl." They never mentioned that at the time. Let's see if they mention it even now.
Students at Utah Valley University gathered to pay tribute to Charlie Kirk, who was assassinated on their campus just 9 days ago. The vigil comes ahead of Sunday's funeral for Kirk. Tens of thousands are expected to attend, including President Trump. His murder and some unexpected outreach that Kirk made the day before his death had resonated with our CNN colleague Van Jones. The story begins when a Ukrainian woman was fatally stabbed last month in North Carolina. The suspect is a black man, and Charlie Kirk and Van got into a public sparring match online. Kirk claimed the murder happened because she was white. Van denounced that as completely unfounded. Kirk then sent out what Van calls a fire hose of tweets challenging his argument, which Van says sparked death threats against him.
Okay. Even now, when describing how this all went down, Anderson Cooper does not mention the fact that DeCarlos Brown, the suspected assailant, said, "I got that white girl." I wonder why they still haven't mentioned that. Still doesn't fit their narrative, does it? Sorry, my cat is bothering me right now, demanding attention.
In the midst of all of this, Kirk reached out to Van in a direct message on X. "Hey Van, I mean it. I'd love to have you on my show to have a respectful conversation about crime and race. I would be a gentleman, as I know you would be as well. We can disagree about the issues agreeably." Now, that message was sent on September 9th. Van says he did not see it until the very next day after Kirk was murdered. Van Jones just wrote a piece about this for CNN.com and is here tonight. I mean, this is extraordinary. So this was received the day before he was killed.
Yeah. Look, I mean, we were beefing. I don't know. We were going at it online, on air. And then after he died, after he was murdered, my team called and said, "Van, he was trying to reach you, man." What? And what was he doing? Dialogue. Let's be gentlemen together. He says, let's disagree agreeably. So I'm sitting on this and I'm watching the whole country talk about civil war, censorship, justifying murder about this guy. This guy is reaching out to his mortal enemy saying, we need to be gentlemen, sit down together and disagree agreeably. And the next day he's killed. And I've sat on it long enough, and I just said, you know what? We're going to Memorial Weekend for this man. We disagree. Everybody knows we were not friends, okay, at all. But you praise the good when it's time to memorialize somebody. And what he did, and I didn't even know it, was good.
Okay, so I wanted to let that play out so as not to taint his thoughts with my own. Also because my cat is being quite the brat right now, currently in my lap. Usually he leaves when I'm talking. This time he decided to make his appearance when I was talking. Yeah, Charlie Kirk reached out to Van Jones asking, maybe not even for a debate, but for a discussion, because that's what Charlie Kirk did. And I don't know whether or not Van Jones would have been receptive to it. He may not even know for sure, but props to him for taking the gloves off in this moment of mourning and saying something he didn't have to say. I mean, he didn't have to bring this to the attention of the public. He essentially, in his last time talking about Charlie Kirk before the assassination, suggested that Charlie Kirk was a racist. So now he's heaping a certain degree of praise on Charlie Kirk, despite them not agreeing on much of anything, fundamentally or politically. Now, one might say that it would be a bad look for Van Jones not to have something positive to say about Charlie Kirk after the death, considering what happened the day before and their back and forth. I mean, CNN was really going after Charlie Kirk, namely Van Jones. So he's saving face a little bit here, but I think that he's being genuine. I refrained from saying that he's a bad guy last time I talked about him, because I do think that he's all right. Van Jones is all right, and I don't agree with him on much either, but, not to get lost in the negative sentiments at the beginning of this particular show of mine. I'm trying to end on more of a positive note. So yeah, that's why I wanted to play this in part, because of the positivity of it and the desire, whether by Charlie Kirk or by Van Jones, for a debate or at least a discussion.
Was not for censorship. He was not for civil war. He was not for violence. He was for dialogue, open debate and dialogue, even with me. even with me.
If would you have gone on his show? Would you have done?
Look, I would have probably tried to get him on your show. I mean, I wasn't trying to build his platform, but I would have called him, we would have talked, and we would have started the process of trying to figure this stuff out. And I think what happens is people get so worked up, Anderson, seeing us go at it, they think they're supposed to go out and kill somebody, or go out and talk about civil war, or go out and silence people, or cancel people, or fire people, or censor people. About Charlie Kirk?
I appreciate the honesty there. There is an underlying acknowledgement about how Van Jones probably wouldn't have gone on Charlie Kirk's show and talked to him there because he wouldn't have wanted to build up his platform. I feel like that happens a lot in politics, especially with people on the left, I've noticed. They don't tend to want to go on the shows of the right, and they don't tend to want to have those on the right on their own shows either. So I don't know that it's necessarily just about a fear of building up the opposition's platform, which is essentially what he suggested there. Sometimes it's a fear of dialogue in general. But not to get lost in the sauce here, I'm just trying to share some thoughts of my own.
Mr. Debate, I did not agree with him on literally almost anything. But we were words, not weapons guys. We were words, not weapons guys. And we were getting into a position where we could get some real debate going, whether it's going to be on CNN or on his show. That wasn't worked out. But I would have taken him up. I wanted to beat Charlie Kirk in a debate. I didn't want somebody to shoot him. That's how we do it in America. And the idea that now people on both sides are justifying murders and calling for civil wars, we got to calm this down, Anderson. We need to calm this down. We need to lower the temperature. Yes, we disagree, but like he said, we can disagree agreeably. That's his last words to me. Let's disagree agreeably. We should take that spirit into the Memorial Weekend for this guy.
You also wrote that in the wake of Charlie Kirk's murders, Americans have a choice. They can choose more violence, more outrage, more censorship, or a different way. It's similar to what the governor in Utah, Spencer Cox, has said in recent days.
Yeah, look, he's a Republican. He's saying the same thing I'm saying. I'm a strong Democrat. We have a choice now. This could be the beginning of us getting off of this pathway, but the pathway we're on, Anderson, is scary. It's about more violence, it's about more retribution, it's about more censorship, it's about more of everything that nobody wants, but we can't seem to get off of it. Charlie Kirk in his last message to me was pointing a way out. Civil discourse, civil dialogue, debate, let's disagree agreeably. If you want to get off this train, we can do it this weekend.
Van Jones, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Disagree agreeably. Easier said than done sometimes. Whether or not a debate between Charlie Kirk and Van Jones would have ever happened, I appreciate the sentiments from Van Jones here. Even if it's a hindsight is 2020 thing, he's at least attempting to bridge the gap to a certain extent for anyone else who might be watching. And speaking of watching, the memorial for Charlie Kirk was held on Sunday, and there are two different clips I want to play for you from that. Very different in their messaging. One is from Erika Kirk, and the other is from Donald Trump. A bit of a yin and yang here. Eric Erickson posted both of them saying, "This evening, Americans saw two paths they can take. What is notable is that progressives have chosen President Trump's path." Why not just say that President Trump has chosen President Trump's path? Weird way to word this. Looking for an opportunity to take a shot at the left. Understandably, but I'm just saying. It's a bit unnecessary in the context of this post. Like, why not say Americans saw two paths they can take, and then say Republicans can take this path or Republicans can take that path, since Republicans are speaking here. And instead you say, what is notable is that progressives have chosen President Trump's path. Not to beat a dead horse here. He continues, they have become what they hate. Erika Kirk, however, presented an alternative path that they, and we all, should consider. Fair enough to Eric Erickson. he did add that "we all" qualifier at the end. So that's worth highlighting, literally. But here's the first clip. Erika Kirk speaking.
That young man. On the cross, our Savior said, "Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do." That man, that young man, I forgive him.
That definitely deserved the standing ovation it got. Very powerful. More bold than anything else she or anyone else could have said, I think. It's unfortunate that after she gave her 17-some-minute long speech a few days ago, shortly after the murder of her husband, there were people on the left who were claiming that what she said was too aggressive, that what she said was hateful. So her husband was murdered, and she somehow finds it within herself to share a message. And the claim was that what she had said was too hateful. Well, it wasn't hateful then. It was not hurtful. It was hurting. Which only makes sense. But this is something different. This is that moment when you reach the point of forgiveness. And that's a point in life which some people never reach for much smaller sins. But she said that. And I think we could all learn a lesson from that. Will Donald Trump learn a lesson from that? Hear it for yourself.
He did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. That's where I disagreed with Charlie. I hate my opponent. And I don't want the best for them. I'm sorry. I am sorry, Erika. But now Erika can talk to me and the whole group, and maybe they can convince me that that's not right, but I can't stand my opponent. Charlie's angry. Looking down, he's angry at me now. He wasn't interested in demonizing anyone. He was interested in persuading everyone to the ideas and principles he believed were good, right, and true.
A moment of levity there, I think. I might even go as far as to say there's some introspectiveness there. A lot of people on the left were very unhappy with what Trump had said, what others had said during this memorial. I don't think this is exactly the worst example of demonization on the part of Donald Trump. I think he was being pretty honest, and he is essentially saying that he's going to continue hating his opponent, but also I guess he's leaving the door open to having his mind changed at the same time. So yeah, he's saying, although Erika Kirk, the widow of the one who was slain, is able to forgive, he's not such a forgiving person himself. It's not always about forgiveness either. Sometimes it's just about general animosity. That's what you get in politics, and it's hard to bring forgiveness into the equation. That's for sure. Especially in times such as these when there is so much division, so much demonization from the right and from the left. At the end of the day, Charlie Kirk and Van Jones basically believe that each other were race hustlers. But it sounds like even in moments like those, it is possible for us to disagree more agreeably. So whether or not you agree with me, thanks for watching, thanks for listening. I gotta go, but keep in touch, keep in tune. New content is coming soon. Peace.